I'd like to call the Board of Education and Business Committee meeting to Tuesday, October 25th. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral land of the Salish people. First item is the adoption of the agenda, and we do have a change. There is no second delegation, so we are moving the introduction, of land-based programs to the Board of Education. Is there any other changes or additions to the agenda? So moved the agenda as amended by Trustee Green, second by Trustee Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes of September 27th, 2016 Board of Education and Business Committee meeting.
So moved.
Trustee Smith, Trustee Gilman. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Action list. Are you speaking on behalf of Mr. Allen, or is Mr. Sanquist?
Mostly Mr. Sanquist, but I get to have it.
I understand he's the most senior educator standing in
One item on the action list, which is strategic planning process, which we know is in final draft and should be published for the next board meeting.
Hopefully it'll be on our agenda for the next steps. No petitions, delegations. We have education, introduction to community classroom. Karen Farquhar, welcome.
Thank you.
And you have some partners as well.
I've brought some of my students with me. So we are perfect. That way we're all together and nobody's on their own. So would you just like to tell us your name and what grade you're in?
I'm Allie and I'm in grade
I am Steven and I'm in grade 10.
I'm Sarah and I'm in grade 8.
9. I'm Kyle and I'm in grade 8 also.
And some of the students offered that we could read their journal entries too. So these guys will be reading some of those entries, and a parent asked that I read a letter from her as well. So I'll read that with you as well. So Sarah, if you'd like to start, please.
So, this is a journal entry. Community class. I think the idea of the community class is great. It doesn't feel like we're forced to do stuff that we don't want to do. I feel more independent every day. I realize and see that our teachers care about our learning. A couple of things I love about the class is that when I walk in, I get greeted, and I know I have friends. I love waking up in the morning and knowing I'm going to have a good day at school. I have so many opportunities that I never had before. It's great. We're like a giant family. The best part of this whole experience is being able to go into the community and help others. The feeling is amazing, and you feel good about yourself afterwards. Thank you. I'm loving school so far. My teacher, Miss Karen Farquhar, is awesome. I'm actually enjoying school and looking forward to coming, unlike the last 7 years. And this is for another student. Her name is, can I say it?
No, she actually not.
This class is very fun and good. I feel like I belong. And I don't get bullied as much. And I can be myself, sort of. Last year and all the years before, it felt like I was trapped because we had to sit in tiny desks and we could not move around. And in here we are allowed to sit wherever we want, sort of. Also, feel like we have more freedom and we can do more things in one big, like, it's one big family, and that people respect others most of the time. I have one more. This is from another student. I feel like I have less anxiety. When I was in middle school, I felt like all the teachers expected the work to be perfect.
The people who were good at things got good marks, and the people who were doing their best didn't get good marks because it wasn't up to the teacher's standards. Now I feel like I want to come to school and learn and meet new people. I know everyone is accepted in this new class, and not only do I feel less stressed, I feel better about myself.
Alright, so I'm going to be reading 2 entries. One I have the paper for, the other one is locked up in my church. So
it's in your
yeah, it's in my head.
head.
Yeah. So this one is from my brother. This is basically the end of week 1, and it has been fantastic. I expected it to be a lot more high school than what it turned out to be. I thought the environment would be a lot more hostile than what it actually is. Just in this week alone, I found out that I can actually speak in front of crowds. And I used to have to go to speech therapy. I don't even know.
I think you can stop there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And my journal entry that is somewhere in my head, basically, this class is great. It's something that has made school so much more enjoyable for me. It's something that's opened so many different doors and opportunities for me to grow and for me to become myself and for me to follow my own destiny, my own path. And it's something that I think every student would benefit from a lot, because how the classes work now, it's effective, but with this, it incorporates family, which is so important with kids in high school and even in elementary school. If you've ever heard of the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, this class sort of excels at that. And that's sort of a nutshell of my entry.
I have a student's journal as well. For once, I don't feel like I'm trapped in a jail in the community classroom. The reason is because there's space you're better at this than me. There's space to move around the classroom. The desks aren't tiny. There's no bullies. I'm given space to calm down when I'm angry or hyperactive. I can use the microwave. We can also use the fridge in the classroom. And then the parent who asked me to share. Hi Karen, I just wanted to send you a huge thank you for yet another successful week. I cannot begin to express my gratitude for all the positive changes in my son. Prior to joining the community classroom, he struggled socially. He did not have any friends and had never been invited to a birthday party. It was heartbreaking. Since September, he has a circle of friends who inundate our home on a regular basis. It's heartwarming to watch him flourish in his academic setting. For the first time in his academic career, he is up and ready for school. The struggles to get him there had never ceased before. He is also being encouraged by his new peer group to explore new outside interests. He has begun to go to different youth groups. I believe that it is in direct correlation to the positive environment both yourself and Monique have provided him. Monique is our EA. Thank you.
So Karen,
That's us.
is this the first year?
This is the first year. We are 2 months young.
And are they there just for one period, or is it a half a day or full day? Or?
It's full day. It's a full day. So the kids are with me all day, every day. I have release from Paul Warren, but he's away right now. So Ori Walls is the release. He does art, but we collaborate. So the art is in conjunction with what we do in our class. Yeah.
And why the name community class program?
Because it's really, I think Stephen said it really well, it's really about encompassing the community. So first of all, being a community within our classroom, we spent a lot of time on community building in the first month and really building confidence and comfort in the class. A lot of the kids in the class have various sources of past trauma, and so that's really been, I think, quite successful. And then also just the idea of being outside of the physical classroom, so we try to go into the community to do our learning and involve people from the community in our learning. So in the next month, we're actually going to be doing our novel studies with seniors from the assisted living community, 2 of the homes near us. And we've already had lots of involvement from Linda McDaniels and Christy Villiers, so different community members have been part of it. So it's growing, we're expanding as we go.
Questions from trustees? Trustee?
Would any of the students like to share any highlights or any particular community engagement that you enjoyed?
Sure, go ahead.
For a couple of weeks ago, we were going to either Centennial Park or McAdam Park for PE, and we could play frisbee or go on the playground, play stuff like grounders. That was nice, because we also got fresh air while we were having PE. And yeah.
I actually don't know how to play grounders.
We're gonna teach you.
It's very loud and very exciting.
I think the highlight for me is sort of similar with Kyle, being able to go outside and explore the community as a community. It's a really nice experience because even though I have a lot of friends in different areas, I typically go out by myself and I don't always hang out with people. I enjoy going for walks by myself, again out to McAdam Park, just contemplating life and everything. And going out with the community, I found is so much more better, and I probably would never have had the experience to go out with 10 other students had it not been for this class.
The highlight for me would probably be, as these two touched, going out and not being confined in the classroom when we do our work. Like, we've went on the trail to do our science, we've been to the park to do our PE, we've went to another park to do our reading. It's great that we don't, we're also not confined to sit in a desk, and I know personally on a note that I have to either be standing or like I have to move or something. And so it's a really good opportunity how we can either stand or like basically do like whatever we can to get our learning to the best ability.
What are some of those seating options that you're talking about?
We have standing desks. We have really comfy chairs that we can use a lap desk. We have cushions where we can lay down or sit up. We have just regular tables. We have singular tables for the kids who like to work independently in like just themselves.
We also have the wheelie chairs.
Yeah, we have wheelie chairs.
Like something like these, only not as fancy. And those tend to be the highlight of our class.
We
for
kind
sure.
of fight over them.
Yes, but they're on the wish list for more in our newsletter to the parents next week. And next week they'll be on the list of wish items, desirable items.
Field trips too. That's fun. Field trips, how we get to like basically plan the stuff ourselves. Like we have to still go over it with Ms. Farquhar, but we get to like plan our stuff. We have so many planning groups going on right now. It's kind of hard to get everybody into just one.
Yeah.
And the kids are everywhere, and so it's like we need him for a sec because he's in our group, or she's in our group.
What we say that what our plans are.
Sure. So we have planning groups. Kids are organizing work. We'll try not to take too much of your time. We call them SESID. So they're student-arranged community events. What group are you in?
I'm in the Vancouver field trip.
And what are you guys working on right now?
We're going to be going if it happens.
Oh, we're thinking that might probably happen.
We're going to be going to the Vancouver Aquarium for the night, and then the next day we're going to be going to science. My group is the VIU trades in the Coachella School. A day of trying new trades there, so like woodwork, maybe that electrical thing I saw that was welding.
I am working on a Halloween party right now.
I'm part of 2 groups. I'm part of a music group and a PE group. So I'm in the music group. We're right now trying to find a low-costing, fairly easy to get to type of concert, sort of. So maybe like a musical artist coming into the community center or something. We're trying to find something that we can work with that, and we're also looking into a guest DJ, I believe it was.
So the guest DJs would be kids within the class bringing in music.
And in the PE group, we're right now trying to figure out how we want to achieve these stretches and running laps without making them seem like laps. And that, because I know a lot of students, myself included, back in elementary school, hated doing it.
I'm also in the PE planning group, and we're also trying to make it easier for, we have a couple kids in our class that are not disabled, but
They have a rougher time.
They have some physical limitations due to surgeries and different things, and we're trying to lead up to do some hiking, and so they're trying to help strengthen. So,
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Karen
you
and
so much
Steve,
for
and
having us.
Sarah, and Kyle, and Ali, and congratulations for a wonderful start.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, Auditor General's report on school district budgeting. Mr. Sanchez, what do you think of this report?
Well, it's full of recommendations. The Auditor General begins by stating that she desired to study school districts, as some districts were caught off guard by unpredicted deficits and shortfalls. So, in the hopes that everybody could benefit from this report, all school districts, they said the Auditor General sent a team into Kootenay Lake District, Richmond, Victoria, and Nanaimo Ladysmith. And from that came out with a number of recommendations that are included in the report. Specifically, they wanted to study whether or not districts were following good practice in the development and in communication of their strategic plans. They followed good practice in the development of their budgets. They regularly monitored and reported actual and forecasted results in comparison to budgets, and had appropriate processes in place to review expenditures that were not in accordance with approved budgets. So after all of that, I think there's 7 or 8 recommendations in here. And there's also a checklist at the end of this now. It's called Appendix A, 20 questions for, it's on page 22 of her report, page 28 of our package. 20 questions for school boards to ask about budget development and expenditure monitoring. We'll get to those. There we are. So the first 5 relate to strategic priorities, which is work that the board has recently completed. 6 to 10 talk about budget development, which are areas that I believe we do follow. We do have quite an open budget process. 11 is around hiring competent staff that understand their roles and understand the finances. About 12 to 16 really were around financial reporting. And those are what we're doing tonight, or today, where we have some financial reporting here today. We also have ongoing forecasts that we start to bring shortly, and we track our actuals to our budget, and we explain those differences to the board members. And then the questions on 17 to 20 those are really things that are answered by our auditors when they're here, who investigate our internal controls and report out to the board. And they also look at our policies and segregation of duties and those items. So I felt that our district sat pretty well with the recommendations in this report. It is for districts was prepared so districts could review some of the best practices, and I think these really do sort of parallel some of the issues in the Watson report as well, which was on the Okanagan Shuswap. Very similar, but almost could have been parallel documents. So it's here just for our information. 22 pages, 23 pages long for those that wish to go into detail.
Questions of Mr. Sanchez?
Just a question, is there a time during the year where we should be referring back to these to look at? Or is it kind of review once and that's all?
Probably regularly. I think annually is a good check.
What other specific items on the 1 to 20 that we need to take heed of and change our practice? By the way, you use the word best practice, but the Auditor General at the top says good practice, which is interesting because usually it is best practice. They try to promote not good.
Right. I didn't see anything that jumped out to me from my scan of the 20 questions and the recommendations. I felt that they were all items we were addressing or were working towards addressing.
Trustee Cross?
I noticed that last year, I think you actually took a different look at stakeholder consultation during the budget process and made some interesting strides in terms of online consultation of the survey and that kind of thing. I know it's really early, but I don't know, have you given any more consideration, anything you'd like to do in the upcoming budget process?
Still pretty early.
Too early? Okay, but you're thinking, I can tell. How to work that.
I have one last question. On page 12, it says a summary of recommendations. Number 4, I was curious about this. Develop a long-term facilities plan. I understood that was required of all districts already. And so I'm not quite sure if there were some districts in their assessment not completed it because I thought it was mandatory. And the second part of the question is, our long-term facilities plan, we can have all the plans we want, but without the adequate funding, it's in somebody else's ballpark for that capital fund. And she puts this under the school district's responsibility solely rather than a joint recommendation to the province as well.
I think there's probably two terms here. There's the 5-year capital plan that we do and we submit to the ministry. What she may be alluding to here in a long-term facilities plan might be a district planning to say our enrollment is declining or increasing, and in 5 years' time we know in this community we may need to close that school. So it may be looking at a planning process around to that degree, which is hard to. We have our enrollment projections now in this district, and we're starting to grow. So in our case, it might be we think. I'll use this as an example. This isn't a real example, Lexi, but we might think that our south end is growing, and that in 10 years we'll need an elementary school, and that would be part of a long-term facilities view. As populations change around the district.
Thank you. Any other questions? So do we need to give any direction on this time? Work safe claims analysis. So 7B.
Yeah. We were here last year with a report that indicated that the school district had the worst work safe claims record among school districts in the province. And at that time, we talked about how we were going to try to get some more data. And once we've engaged services of SB 23 to do our claims management, they were able to provide us with a lot of information, and we summarized it here. There's a lot of information behind this that management can work with, but we didn't want to. It starts to point to privacy issues as we go any deeper than what we've shown here. So what I wanted just to show you here is that this year we've had 49 claims to date, and I wanted to show you sort of where they're happening and what the incident rate is among each of those groups. So if you look at the very, very top part here, it makes sense, I think, that our more physical jobs, maintenance, grounds, and custodial would have the highest claims rate among staff. So that's consistent, doesn't it? Shows us those are areas that we need to maybe concentrate our efforts on as far as safety and workplace procedures to try to address those. Education assistants, then teachers and down. Then we looked at, well, what are the types of injuries? And you'll see that there's more injuries there than there are claims, because some people have multiple injuries within a claim. So 72 injuries among 49 people. Some people will hurt 2 to 3 different injury areas or injury types. So in this case, knees, shoulders, hand, fingers are starting to point out to us the types of injuries that people are, or areas that people are becoming injured in. And then the final part, most of our injuries, I think over half of them, are strains and sprains. So again, we have a little more information now and can start to work with the safety committee, district health and safety committee around strategies to start to address those. So we did bring you information last year, and we're now able to get a little more detail and start to work on processes to hopefully try to turn that around. I don't know from a comparative to whether or not we're less than last year or this year, because they are only tracking our 2016 data for us at this time. So I'd have to do a little bit more research to find out whether we've seen improvements.
So this is year to date.
It is. It's actually January to September, so not our school year. It's the calendar year.
Actually, Jason already answered my question, but I just say I'm really happy that we're doing this and that the Health and Safety Committee is looking at it. We've heard for a number of years that there have been high number of incidents, and we've never had data before, so this is great that we can move forward and try to impact.
Trustee Doman?
Do we investigate every incident that happens?
We do now that we have. Oh, you mean investigate?
Like
Sorry.
every injury, every claim.
As an employer for validity, or for do we just do an investigation to make sure the workplace was safe after?
Yeah, like what happened, why did it happen?
Yep.
How?
Yeah, our safety manager does that as well. That's part of the supplemental service that we receive through our contract with School District 23 and their claims management. Is they query us to provide them with information on where, why, how, and provide us some feedback.
So is this going to be the base to go forward on, or are you going back to 2015 to make a base?
I think this is what's happening now. These are current injuries, so I think this is pretty relevant data to injuries in our workplace this year. I'm going to take this data and forward it to the District Health and Safety Committee. And again, management has more than this. We can see the age groups and the frequent individuals as well within this data set. Can't share that here, but we do have more information that we can now support. I was only really able to put this together in the last couple of days just to get ready for this agenda. So we haven't done a lot with it yet.
Trustee Smith?
So what you're saying is that we may have 49 claims, but some of those 49 could be the same person on several different claims.
That's right.
Moving on to business and operations, 2016-2017 budget on small print.
Thank you. I'm making this bigger on the screen. Yeah, oh, this one's like this. Yeah, this one.
No, I turned 60 last week.
Oh, wine.
Okay, so this is added in after, but it is part of the numbers that you'll see on the other sheet when we arrive at it. What this is doing is looking at now where I think our grant will be, and May, where it was when we filed the budget last spring. Now it's changed a little bit. So some of the enrollment that I have here under standard, where I show now we have 7,228.5 FTE. That was done before our echo check was done, or our 1701, and we since adjusted down about 10 students. So what I'm showing here is about $70,000 too high now based on our 1701 echo check. It wasn't available at the time this was originally prepared. This was on the ministry submission. So what we can see here, we've talked about our enrollment growing, and with that enrollment growth, just the regular enrollment growth that we've had this year, we should generate about another $1 million. Now that again, drop 70,000 off that 1,021,000, but really roughly around $1 million up in funding for enrollment growth. After that, we get into our unique student needs area, and we're just looking at September here. And there we're seeing some quite large shifts in our special needs numbers. So partly because we have more students, we're having more designated students, but partly it's work of the special education department and team to identify students for identification or for additional services. So within our level 1 we're up 3 students, and that generates $113,000 worth of service. Of course, those are students that typically are dependent handicapped, and we will spend all of that to support those students. So when we see these dollars, they're not coming without extra expenditures associated with them because they're students that need services. Under level 2 special needs, we were up 46, and that's up from 247 last year, up to 293. Generates 867,000. They generate 18,850 per student. Under level 3, which is typically in the behavior area, identification up 40 to 89. That generates 465,000. ELL, partly some of these students may be are Syrian refugee students who would be provided with additional English language services, up 56,000. And then we have a target. We are up from 1431 to 1497 on students that have identified to receive an Aboriginal program in Aboriginal education. So that generates $78,000, which is targeted, must be spent in the area of Aboriginal education. So in unique student needs, that's close to 1.6 million. So when we look at our total September to September enrollment change, that's 2.6 million, and that is going to be realized because we're not in funding protection. So in prior years, we would have had to have absorbed services for those students until we broke out our funding protection. But this year, we were out in our preliminary budget. We haven't made any adjustments for February or the May enrollment count. Still a bit early to know if they're going to be substantially different. So I've left them alone. But just wanted the committee to be aware that we do anticipate that when we receive our funding announcement in November, it will be in the range of $2.6 million greater than what it was in last May. So that moves us into the next sheet, the one that's hard to read here. And I can be zoomed a bit. Maybe I'll go up there. So I'll come up here. I've got a pointer. So we started up here with a balanced budget. This is what was filed last May, and we went through all the public processes to get to that point. So when we showed the board, when the auditors were here to present the financial statements, they showed that we had an unrestricted surplus of $815,000. So the trustees may remember, and the public may remember that amount. Also going to bring in that $2.6 million that we just reviewed of additional funding. So what I'm doing is I'm taking you from the budget that was filed originally last May to where we're at. I think we're at today. We've had some the transportation fund. That was a big announcement where the province provided us with funding, or the board with funding, to offset fees to students. We had money in our budget that had to come out, but we're able to put in that transportation funding. Some miscellaneous revenue adjustments. A little bit of that is around the international program, and the other one is around a grant that we received for funding one of our employees. Also might remember that there was $22 million provincially to offset the Next Generation Network fees that the district pays. So that's a credit that we have, so we can take that expenditure line item out of our budget. We're working through a contract here with Cowichan Tribes, and we're not sure where that's going to end up. That's around the busing. We introduced a new homestay manager, which was to address the growth in the international program. So that program has been expanding year to year, and we needed to put a position in to facilitate the finding the homestays for those additional students. So we have one now. Now we have two. There's been about 20 education assistant positions, which is about a net FTE of just under 15. So not everybody's 1.0 full-time, 35 hours a week. And that has cost $923,000. So when we showed you all those students in level 1, 2, and 3 on the funding portion, this is the supports that are going in for those students. Same as the teachers. Some of that is classroom, and some of that is services for the special needs students as well. So with all that enrollment growth, we had to put in additional teachers. So the net there is actually over 2 lines. It's 1.2 here, and there's another 280 over on the other side. But it nets to just over 16 FTE teachers increased in the budget since May. Some miscellaneous staffing adjustments. We're always reconciling who's hired, what they're earning. It goes up, it goes down. Budget is dynamic. It changes the day after it's been adopted. And here we show some of those staffing adjustments. And under services and supplies, there's a big block here of money, $148,000 in supplies. And we just really parked the additional funds that were required for the Aboriginal education target there until there's consultation and decision made around where those are going to be allocated. So they needed to go into the budget to meet target, but we don't have a plan yet for that difference for those additional students. So when we follow that through, it kind of gives us where we're at now in our budget document. If we were to amend it today, it would look like this, or very close to this. And net increase, or net unallocated funds of just under 1.2 million. So we're still sort of in the clear. We haven't spent the surplus that we had from last year. We also have not spent all the funds that were generated by the additional students.
Questions of Mr. St. Is it good news story?
I think so.
You think so?
I agree.
Okay, moving on to policy. Trustee Smith, do you want to introduce us? I see you follow a policy of less is better.
Well, actually, we'll thank the Secretary Treasurer for that.
Oh.
After receiving input from advisory, this is the draft that staff felt would be best to move forward with policy 2400.
So you're making that recommendation to the board?
Yes, please.
Seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any discussion? Trustee DeGroot.
So when it says appropriate regulations prominently in all schools, it doesn't necessarily mean it's on a flagpole outside. It could be.
Could be in this in the building,
Yeah, in the
like we have here.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Any other business?
Just to let you know, I did receive momentarily before the meeting began an email from Trustee Thorne giving his apologies, saying he's still out of town on work and will be back on Sunday.
Motion to adjourn.